Um, yeah, so welcome back to the last session of Welfare Wednesday. So wrapping up for this semester, and we've learned a lot from our first year doing this segment. So next year we're going to take everything we learn and improve it. So quickly as an introduction for Bailey Eagan is a PhD student here at UBC studying in the animal welfare program, where she also completed her master's. Bailey did her master's thesis on the effect of animal shelter sounds on cat behavior and welfare, and is currently researching novel interventions relevant for shelter cat welfare for her PhD thesis. Bailey is the recipient of 23 grants and awards with a good amount of teaching experience across multiple AppBite courses and animal welfare seminars. Last but definitely not least, Bailey is the founder and president of Shark Saver Queens and the creator and curator of Fishy Choices back at Queen's University, where she completed her Bachelor of Science and Honors Biology. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for that great introduction. That was a proper deep dive, straight from some of my shark experiences in my undergrad. It's a good flash.
Yeah, but I was like, wow, this is very interesting. We have a blog owner with us today. Yeah, so we'll jump right into it. Before I get into it, though, just a quick heads up for the viewers in the chat. If you are joining us live, if you have any questions, please let us know right away, and we'll get to them as we can. All right, so to kick off our career and academic related questions, can you please tell us a bit about your experience researching and working?
Yes, absolutely, and I have to apologize in true pet form. My cat and dog are having their but yeah, so I've been doing my master's within the program, or I did my master's within the program and then continued on in my PhD because I was really excited about this particular program. Very research intensive, which means that I get to be involved in a wide range of research opportunities and get to work with a wide range of people who are really working on such a interesting bunch of topics that it's a really inspiring place to be and collaborate and learn. So after I did my master's, it was a no-brainer to keep going.
Oh, that's great to hear. And coming from the East Coast, is there a specific reason why you chose UBC's Master and PhD program over every other
program? When I moved out to BC, I first started working in whale, dolphin, and porpoise research. So I was originally drawn properly to an ocean coast, and but it was through that I became really inspired by animal research particularly, and it inspired me to go back to grad school. So then when it came time to go back to grad school, I looked at faculty members and research focuses, and I met with many different departments and things, and the animal welfare program was just really kind of everything aligned perfectly. So that's what drew me in. Some great conversations, to be honest.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, got that worked out for you though, like just to not have to move again and things like that. That's awesome. So could you elaborate a little bit more on what the application process was like for the Masters for AppBite here at UBC? And what part of your past experiences do you think was the most important in getting accepted into the program?
I was thinking about it, and I don't think I know anybody who had two identical experiences. So it really was unique, and I think that's part of how you get such a range of people within the program. But it started initially very kind of traditional, where you submit your transcripts and you reach out to everybody and you kind of build those contacts. But what I liked about before starting my master's is that I came and presented to the group on my research experience and my interests. I met supervisors, I had tea, I had lunch, met with possible external collaborators. So the BCSPCA is a big one that I partner with. So it was through those discussions of where can we help each other, where can I learn, and that was all part of the application process. So by the time I was accepted and started my research, I had a lot of experience and contacts already.
Got it. That's good to know. And of course, just a quick pause from the interview. If you'd like to give a quick pet shout out, please feel free to do so. Yeah, if no problem at all. And then they're taking a run off. Right? Something I couldn't help but notice on your CV is the amount of honors, fellowships, and grants you've received over the years. Would you be able to share on how you received these awards and how, like, any tips for any undergraduate student looking to apply for any scholarships?
Many years to collect those. and I would say the honors, fellowships, and awards, they're quite a range of approaches that you would take for each of those. Some of them complete luck, some of them a lot of hard work. But I would say one thing that I do that I think kind of helps across the board for all of those is I always have my CV open as a Word document on my computer. So I'm constantly adding to it whenever there might be something. And I kind of have like a master version that I can pull from. And then I also find it helpful for noticing any gaps that you might want to address. And then hopefully with a well-rounded CV, you can make yourself most like some of those awards. And then also getting a lot of feedback. I used to be really scared of feedback, and I realized one of the greatest things you can do is get critiques and areas of improvement on your work or on really anything. And I just seek that out a lot now, and I think that's really beneficial for my project.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, and was research always something you knew you were interested in, or was there like a different career path you considered? And why did you choose
Yeah, I think
research after
I very
everything
much
you did?
generally always the for sure clear thread was animals. Absolutely, it had to involve animals in whatever way, and it was kind of through work experiences and trying, working at vet clinics, working in research, working in the field, working for nonprofits. Like I kind of started kind of being able to narrow down what really interested me the most, and then research just kind of grew into that thing that I felt aligned with my interests and my personality. And it's something that there's something about kind of systematically asking questions about animals and then getting to go explore those. And then also playing with large data sets, like a day in R is a pretty good day. So animals and a little bit of that, it's a good balance for me. So it's kind of through trying many things that I got into research.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with you with the statistics and things like that. I love that
Yep.
stuff, all in all. And going back to experiences with UBC, are there any courses that you would recommend for undergraduate students
Yeah.
interested in animal welfare
So
specifically?
I mean, every time I look at the course list, within the applied animal biology group, I see it's always evolving, and like there's courses I want to take still and be involved in. I would say if I had to think about the ones that changed kind of my path and foundational ones to start with, I think 315, Animal Welfare and Ethics of Animal Use, and 313, Experimental Analysis of Animal Behavior, as well as 314, Animals and Society. I realized those are ones that like made it so I just forever looked at the world in a different way, and it really helped kind of target. I think those can be good launching pads for where to go next with your courses, because there's many options.
Right. Absolutely. I'm so excited. I'm taking 314 in the summer, hopefully, if we get into with it. But yeah, that is very exciting. So slightly unrelated to your career path and also wrapping up this portion of the questions, please tell us about what it was like growing up on a hobby farm. It's definitely something
Yes,
that we
so
see every day.
I was very lucky to grow up in a family of animal lovers, surrounded by animals, including extended family. Everybody, family, friends, everybody seemed to be surrounded by a lot of animals. So that was just a great perk to get a range of experiences, meet the range of personalities that you get. And I still think about like a lot of those early experiences with some of the like little ponies that we had that shapes, I think about it all the time. It shapes a lot of my work still today. So I think it kind of launched me into this world, really.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. All right, just another reminder for the chat people in the chat is that if you have any other career or research, career specific questions, please feel free to ask them whenever, but we are going to move on into the research portion of the interview. To kick it all off, what is the definition of animal welfare?
Yeah, so it's almost a simple question, but also a super complex question. But for me, it's just an animal having a good life. And I actually pulled a book because it's my favorite book for anybody who's asking that question. This one here, Understanding Welfare by David Fraser. I think this book kind of shows that it's not so simple, but there's, to me, it's just how can we ensure an animal has a good life? And I really like in that book how it describes some of the ways that we can go about actually systematically trying to discover how good or poor an animal's welfare is by looking at biological affective states and natural living. But I really recommend that book for anybody who wants to explore that topic in more detail.
And that's Dr. David Fraser
Yes.
from UBC, right? The author? All right. For that, I will definitely go take a look on that after when we have a chance. And what led you to choose your master thesis topic, the effect of animal shelter sound on cat behavior?
That was yet again David Fraser. So I was working with him for my master's, and I knew I wanted to work in animal shelters and work with companion animals and see how we can improve their welfare within this system. But it was conversations with David where I was really keen when I first started. I was like, I have all these project ideas and I want to get started right away and be as productive as possible. And he kind of encouraged me to slow down and just go and be among the animals for a while. So I spent a lot of time not being so productive in an animal shelter and just kind of observing what goes on in the day, what sort of behaviors do we see, what sort of individual personalities do we see. And it was that I noticed there were huge differences in the cat's behavior throughout the day, of when doors would slam, they'd startle or go into hiding, or sometimes when it was really quiet and cozy at nighttime, that's when you'd see those really shy cats kind of come out and just show off their personality and engage in all these really important behaviors for them. So it was only through kind of taking that step back and watching what was going on that inspired that topic, which ultimately ended up being us investigating how sound can impact cats in shelters.
Oh, I see. And during your research, did you notice that if their behavior, worsened or, became better over time, or was it always consistent?
A lot of individual variation in that, where it varies a lot cat to cat. But generally speaking, we do see a settling down period in the shelter where they'll often, I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule, but they'll often be quite fearful when they first get into the shelter, and then gradually over time they'll settle in if things are going well. But we see no cat is exactly the same in that sense.
All right, that's good to know. So what are the results of your thesis, and are there any specific recommendations you'd make to improve cat welfare in shelters?
Yeah, so for my master's thesis, specifically the one looking at sound, we did find that sound was impacting specifically fear and maintenance related behavior. And from that, I'm now working with the BCSPCA. We've just finalized a sound reduction guide for animal care facilities. So we have found a bunch of inexpensive ways that people can reduce sound, not only for animal welfare, but also for human welfare of the people who need to work in these environments that can be sometimes quite loud. So our goal is sort of to just try to make that a calmer environment with less, dog barking that you might be hearing right now.
Got it. Yeah, and then I know this is just probably one small facet of your work with BCSCCA, but I wanted to quickly ask you about the animal kind dog training program auditor position.
Yes,
could you tell me a little bit more about what that entails?
I did see you spoke to Eagan Ryan before, who I am very lucky to get to work with for that. But that is a position with the animal kind program. So that is a program that accredits dog trainers who follow positive reinforcement, non-aversive, and science-based methods for training their dogs. And they're an incredible group of trainers. And then I have this great position where I get to go as an auditor and once a year join their classes and observe as a part of the auditing process for animal kind standards, which is like maybe the one position everyone imagines you're constantly surrounded by animals and having this great time when you work in animal welfare. And you kind of are. So it's pretty ideal in that sense.
Well, great. And then let's move on to another different research topic of yours. So for your work on reasons for guardian relinquishment of dogs to shelters, animal and regional predictor in British Columbia, what are some major reasons for dog relinquishment that you see? And what did you find that benefits the most for dog retention?
Where we were looking at a data set of 10 years of data of why people are needing to surrender or relinquish their dogs to the shelters in the first place. And something that we saw that was really interesting and kind of reflects what we see with other research is a lot of the issues are human related. Most of the primary issues are things like not being able to find pet-friendly housing, or having not enough time to take the dog for walks, or cost issues. So from that, we see a lot of potential intervention strategies that the opportunities to support people to help keep those pets that they want to keep. They don't want to be relinquishing them, but they're faced with circumstances that make it so they need to. And then of the animal-related reasons, dog behavior was also a reason. So potential way to help with behavioral support, perhaps with some of those great trainers that we were talking about earlier.
For sure. Yeah, you can definitely see how animal welfare, each topic kind of just connect with each other like that, right? That's really cool. Um, and I also wanted to ask about your recent clinical trial on gabapentin with cat hoarding. Could you please tell us a little bit about what that is
So
and
this
what
was
the results
kind
are
of
for
jumping
that
more into
experiment?
my PhD work, which is looking at interventions to help assess and improve animal welfare for some of our most vulnerable animals in shelters. And I was really drawn to specifically cats from hoarding environments because they're a population in the shelter that it's really challenging because they have a lot of medical and behavioral issues that can, and highly fearful from a range of histories. So they're a population that needs a lot of help, and they seem to be entering shelters in higher numbers. So some treatment strategies that have been discussed but not really explored systematically in a shelter is using anxiety-reducing medication to help with the treatment of these cats. So we're so lucky to get a whole animal shelter research lab within the BCSPC. Spent about a year conducting a study where we would bring in cats from hoarding environments, and we'd work with them using behavioral protocols, and then we also had gabapentin or placebo cats within each getting a gabapentin or placebo treatment group. And then what we found, we've just submitted that paper, so the paper's not quite about
Okay.
about that study. It was a huge collaboration with actually many applied animal biology students as well. But we did find that gabapentin was helpful in reducing stress within the shelter, as well as speeding up that behavior modification protocol. So our ultimate goal was to get them less fearful, especially less fearful of humans. And it seemed that a low dose of anxiety medication in the shelter was very helpful for that.
Oh, great. Do you know if that's cost effective at all? Is gabapentin a
Relatively
cheap or an expensive drug
pretty
for like large
inexpensive.
range?
This question. The liquid formulation is a bit more expensive than the capsule formulation. Shelters will use a capsule and get approximate dosing. We had to have pretty exact dosing because of it was a study, but quite inexpensive. We're also conducting a survey study right now across Canada, the US, and Mexico, looking at what medications shelters are using or what medication alternatives, because there's some interesting research in that whole world as well. So we're looking at what's useful for shelters, what are the barriers they face, like cost or public perception and that sort of thing, just so we can understand more about what are people doing to help these animals that are most vulnerable in the shelter population. Hopefully have some cool results from that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Do you know if this is something that the cats will need support with throughout their lifetime, or is it only in
You
the
have so
shelter?
many great research ideas. So there's a little bit of research to show that these highly fearful animals can become super social or social homes based on kind of standard behavior assessments. So I expect that they're more fearful when they enter homes, and that does seem to be what preliminary evidence shows. But it that they can adjust quite well, and I think having a stable, consistent environment with a lot of positive interactions and people who are looking out for them so carefully, it seems to do wonders for these cats that are really having a difficult start to life. But we see really positive outcomes. So there's treatment options to continue on anxiety medication or other, but so far from what we know, it looks like it's actually quite positive.
Oh, that's great. That's good to hear. Okay. Yeah, and thank you so much for the research topics that you do in this category, because I adopted my cat from a volunteer organization, I think like almost 10 years ago now. He's still around, but yeah, I didn't think that there was this much that goes into it from behind the scenes. And studying animal welfare is really opening my eyes up with this category of topics as well. And going back to another research topic too, is there's a sizable number of us in API that are also pet owners. But I will argue that the term bacteriophage and pet food are completely on different sides of our brains with zero connection between another. Can you please tell us about how bacteriophage applications can help improve animal health and environmental
Yeah, so
sustainability in the
this is
pet
a
food
really
industry?
early area of research, especially for me.
Hmm.
But as I mentioned, this is a
Yeah.
program where you get involved in a bunch of different types of research, sometimes totally unrelated, but all equally interesting. But bacteriophages are a type of virus that infects and kills bacteria, and it's increasingly being used as an additive to food to help prevent pathogen contamination such as salmonella or listeria for human food. And there also seems to be an increase or at least a number of pet food recalls where sometimes these pathogens are ending up in pet food. So bacteriophages are being explored as a potential additive that could help decrease some of this pathogen contamination. But we know so little about how people feel about this, and is this something that people would feel comfortable feeding to their pets, and there is limited research too on the preference, like well, humans can't taste or smell it, we don't know if pets can or if they have any preference. So we did do a survey looking at human perceptions of bacteriophages added to their pet food, and then we're in the middle of a study where we're doing preference testing with dogs to see if when they eat bacteriophage compared to an untreated food, if they have any preference for or against, over a number of repeated trials. So this is an evolving research area for us, but something that's been super, super interesting to explore.
Is that something that lengthens the
Oh
shelf
gosh,
life of dog
I
food at
don't know
all?
if it logically, well, actually,
I could.
I'd
Yeah.
need to consult some food safety or storage expert on that, which I am certainly not.
Sure, I'm sure pet food companies would pick up this project
Yes,
very quickly,
I do
though, if it's
think that
successful, right?
it's on. Certainly, I've talked to a few pet food companies. Like I know it's the kind of avenues that they're exploring because especially to prevent recalls, because salmonella infected food that could
Yeah.
be a big concern, and for animal and human health.
Yeah, I know. I'm just one very small data point in the entire population, but I used to work at a pet store, and I remember seeing recalls like every month, pretty much, and they would have to take bags and bags of food off the shelf. But this was probably back in 2019, so it's been a few years. But I thought that was very frequent, though, for, you know, 'cause we only had
I
like
have
10,
been
15 dogs
surprised
in
when
the
I look on
store.
the FDA recall site. It seems like a bit of a steady stream.
Okay, so we're just wrapping up the interview now. Are there any other research projects you're currently working on that you find particularly
Definitely
interesting that you'd like
the
to share?
anxiety medication path that I'm on right now. I also had a chance recently to collaborate with my current PhD supervisor, who is on all my projects, Dr. Sasha Protopopova, as well as my brother, who is a computer scientist, and he is a whiz, and he helped us with a computer vision project where we used computer vision to monitor eating and drinking behavior of cats. So that's a kind of another research area that I'm I don't know that particularly excited about, and I've just ignited my Alexa. So, oh boy.
I was like, whoa, what was that? Didn't know we had a second guest. But thank you so much for your time, Bailey. Um, yeah, I wish we could have a longer interview, but I guess it's probably never going to be enough to cover what you've done in animal welfare research. Luckily for us is that Bailey has many of her presentations recorded and available on our website, so I'll link them all in the description of the YouTube video we will upload later. And I will highly suggest the readers check them out, or the viewers check them out. And thank you so much for chatting with us today, Bailey, and I hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday. And thank you everyone for tuning in for Welfare Wednesday this semester, and we hope to catch you probably back in September next year, or this year, September later this
Really,
year.
really nice to,
So thank
to
you for,
be here. Thank you, Isaac. Bye now.
no problem at all.